Okay, there we go. Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Haley and we're talking all about the 18th gene key today. The healing power of the mind. The shadow frequency today is called judgment, which is actually strikingly similar to the 17th shadow of opinion. So talking about judgment today, moving eventually into the gift of integrity in future videos, and then the city of perfection. So this chapter about the shadow frequency is called the victim mind. Built into the human genetic matrix is a deep sensitivity to imperfection, which gives rise to criticism and judgment. And it runs really deep, right? Think of someone you know that doesn't judge anything. It's pretty much, maybe there's one person you've met, but again, if you've met that person, they're probably enlightened. Because more often than not, it is human nature to pick and prod and judge and criticize and wish things were different, reject reality as it currently is. You know, I could reframe this multiple ways for you. And this begins in your childhood, right? When you're a child, you're like a little sponge. You just soak up whatever is in your direct environment. Meaning if your parents are displaying judgment or preference or attachment or resistance, then you too soak that up. And if it's not your parents, then it's your teachers. And if it's not your teachers, then it's someone else in this big wide world. The programming, the dogma that we see in the TV and now the social media, on the billboards and the commercials, it's everywhere. So it begins in childhood, just as any other shadow frequency does take root. And he says that it's also derived from this built-in need to challenge authority. Then he takes us on a mini segue and notes how also in childhood is a built-in need to challenge authority, which is usually, once again, your direct environment. So first off your parents, then bleed in the teachers and passerbys. And challenging is a healthy thing, right? The only reason children push is to see where the boundary is. And the only reason this is kind of dangerous to a certain degree is because a lot of current parental guides and teachers don't actually know how to hold a strong boundary, right? Some parents fold when the kid has a tantrum and just give it what it wants. Some completely neglect it. Some use other unconscious behaviors to co-spy the difficult job of parenting, which obviously I'm not going to speak more to since I'm not a parent and don't know the struggles that come with that. Nonetheless, the reason the child challenges any authority is to test and see where the boundaries are. And then that in turn directs them on how to live. And this is an innate part of our urge to become differentiated, Richard Rudd says. He goes back to referencing the 7-year cycles, which I've relayed in past videos when he brought it up for the first time. Cycles 0 to 7 being where the physical body grounds, and then 8 to 14 emotional, and then 15 to 21 mental. So he said is in our third 7th year cycle, which is 14 to 21, not 15, sorry, 14 to 21, that our development primarily concerns the growth and expansion of our mental faculties. Our capacity to judge is tested and forged. So judgment really starts to come online in a very heavy way, ages 14 onward, specifically 14 to 21. And this is true, right? Because you think of a small child and their judgment is a lot less fueled by self-deprecation. It's okay, yes, they have judgment when it comes to ice cream. I want this ice cream flavor and not this one. But a lot of the judgment is not harmful, I should say. Harmful judgment starts to come online and make itself very apparent ages 14 to 21. Take the simple example of 14, you're getting into your last year of middle school if you're in America, or entering high school. You start to judge how you look, compare yourself to others, especially if you're a girl, although I'm sure boys go through it too. And this is because of that entering into this 3rd, 7th year cycle, all to do with mental capacity. He notes that parents need to not get stuck in their own judgment. Again, if we're speaking light to raising children that are conscious, loving, present, and happy, parents need to not get stuck in their own judgment or self-judgment, because if they're not stuck in this pattern, then they don't pass this on to their children, who are like little sponges as they grow, specifically from ages 0 to 21. But he says, unfortunately, sadly, most people and adults and parents in general are stuck in judgment and self-judgment, comparison, deprecation, not feeling worthy, however you'd like to put this. And therefore it is passed on to the children, meaning that most children never actually graduate to true adulthood, to true maturity. And just look around. There's a bunch of man children running around and woman children running around, right? People that are in the bodysuit of an adult, a mature adult, yet mentally, emotionally, are not in their true adulthood, not operating from love, peace, oneness, slow, calm, effort to communicate. There's a lot of reactivity and mental dramas playing out in the collective. And this is what gives rise to the victim mind. Judgment is foundational to feeling like a victim. So what is the victim mind? He gives us the definition. He says victim mind is a conglomeration. I like that word. It sounds so big and fancy. The victim mind is a conglomeration of all the undermining judgmental thoughts and patterns throughout the world. And he actually notes, he calls all of us out. He says, if you actually observe your own mind, then you will notice that a large percentage of what you think is affected by this pervasive, collective victim mind, by this conditioning. Again, whether it's through the parents, the teachers, the propaganda, the commercials, the billboards, the magazines, the Instagram, the Twitter, whatever. It's around us everywhere. This collective thought patterns that are negative. And it fuels the victim mind, it fuels the judgment, it fuels the urge and need and want to actually compare yourself to others. The victim mind is an inner world of gossip, complaint, and worry. Okay, so if that's what the victim mind is, essentially, it's all gossip, all complaint, all worry. Then inversely to that, which again we'll talk further in the videos talking about the gift frequency of integrity in the city of perfection, but inverse to these victim mind qualities would be, instead of gossiping, constructive conversation. That's creative and innovative and for the purpose of evolution and experiencing and exchanging more love. The inverse of complaining would be praise, gratitude, observing beauty, saying thank you and meaning it, and demonstrating that through action. And then the inverse of worry would, of course, be trust. Instead of anxiety about the future and, oh God, I gotta do this, and what if it doesn't work out? God's will is my will. I trust that whatever comes, comes. So there's also a vibration of relaxation there. So if the victim mind, as he says, is an inner world of gossip, complaining, and worrying, then a higher octave of that, a higher manifestation, a true manifestation would be constructive conversation, praise, and trust. But enough on that. We will dive deeper into that in future videos. So quickly, temp check. You who's watching this, do you struggle with the victim mind? And don't be so quick to answer, right? Sit with that for a second. Do I struggle with the victim mind? This is your first contemplation. Do I ever complain? Do I ever worry? And do I ever gossip? And it's interesting to really sit with this and remember that gossiping is even judging what someone's wearing, even if it's just internal, right? Even if you're not exchanging this through physical language with another person. Complaining can also be inward. Why is that so expensive? Oh my God, I literally told him to take the trash out. Like, these are very subtle sometimes. It's not so obvious. Not everyone who's operating from victim mind is as vocal as some are about it. Some people are clearly like operating from their victim, right? They make no attempt to hide it. They're actively gossiping, actively worrying, actively utilizing their precious life force and energy to complain. But more often than not, most of us still do this internally. And it doesn't matter if it's internal or external, expressed vocally or expressed internally and quietly and absence of sound, it is still the victim mind. So really ask yourself this: do I operate from the victim mind? And if I do, let's start to brainstorm. Where do I find myself complaining often? Where do I find myself being drawn to gossip? And where do I find myself having worry or existential anxiety about the future? Yeah, and you could contemplate that one for a while. It's a big chunk of stuff to think about. We worry incessantly about mundane issues such as money and our health. I mean, I know I do. I worry about, how am I gonna get this amount for this trip? Or, what if this is getting infected? Even though right now it's totally fine. I definitely see the victim mind operating. Ironically, it's exactly this kind of thinking that keeps us from being abundant in terms of both our health and wealth. And one thing I'll point out that he doesn't say here, which is, say these thoughts. Let's just say, for example, I'm worrying about this. And, is it okay? What if? These thoughts are going to churn, because this is what the mind does. It thinks. It spits things out and sees what sticks to the wall, right? It's like a whole pile of spaghetti that throws all these thoughts and sees what sticks. And it's up to me, the consciousness, to decide what sticks, to decide what I entangle with, to decide what I give my attention and my energy to. So I can watch these thoughts come up and choose to remember the truth, which is, the truth is, I don't need to worry. I don't need to identify with the victim mind that's being activated. I can choose to trust, right? The inverse of worry. I can choose to trust that it's all good. And every time a thought comes up that threatens that trust, I can choose to relax into the truth. Oh yeah, it's all good. And it's a constant choice. It's a constant disentanglement from the monkey mind. And this is just meditation, essentially. And it can be done with the eyes open as well as the eyes closed. So I'll just say that. It's not that these thoughts are bad or that we're trying to not get them to come up at all. No, they're going to come up because that's inevitable. That's what the mind does. It thinks. Sometimes it worries. Sometimes it complains. And the goal is to watch it as it arises rather than entangle and let the spaghetti stick. And if an individual is able to do this, right, watch the spaghetti get thrown at the wall and then choose to let it fall, choose to keep returning to the truth of trust, of gratitude, and of constructive conversation, then this opens that channel of abundance so that wealth and health can pour in. More about that in the next videos. The more you entangle, the more you damage yourself in the world. So for instance, entanglement would look like, say this thought pops up, what if it's getting infected? Oh my God, what if it's getting infected? Oh my God, what if it's getting infected? And then I'll have to, oh my God, if it's infected, then I can't go on the holiday and Christmas and I'll have to stay here and I'll be alone. Oh my gosh, it'll suck. So see, entanglement looks like going down this negative rabbit hole. Whereas if I can disentangle and watch that one thought pop, it pops up just as fast as it disappears. So the more you entangle, the more you damage yourself, right? And you can feel this if you've ever entangled with a negative thought. You know just how damaging it is for your mental and emotional health. And not to mention your physical environment, right? Because that's the energy you take into your day and you spread that out to people. Smear it all over. So I like that reminder. The more you complain, the more you damage yourself and those in vicinity. Because if I'm going around and I'm like tweaking out and itching because I really have started to entangle with this thought of, oh my God, what if it's infected? Now my anxiety, when I go into the cafe to order a coffee and a croissant, I'm like, yeah, can I just have a coffee? Like I'm annoyed and I'm reactive, and the lady on the register is like, yeah. And I don't tip her because I'm so in my own head, I'm not even paying attention and I'm not being present and of service to who's around me. So I start to leaky this energy onto everyone. Sometimes this comes into my head, this like, no. So watch it, don't entangle with it. Easier said than done. And there's an invitation. Maybe choose something that's currently trying to entangle with you. A negative thought, whether it's in the form of worrying, an anxiety about the future, a complaint, etc., a gossip. Choose to see it and make a note of what it is. See it for what it is and do your very best to, instead of entangle, just keep observing it for what it is. Okay, and then as I read on here, I totally forgot. He actually does mention what I just talked about, which is it's nearly impossible not to judge because judgment is the way in which human minds think. So he does go over this, which is amazing. I read this chapter a few weeks ago. Oh yeah, and he basically gives a similar spiel to what I just said. So it's the fault is in identifying with what thoughts come up, which I use the word entangle, he uses the word identify. If you can make a judgment and at the same time be aware of judging, then you're no longer trapped by your own mind. That's the key. And I like how concise he says it. Richard Rudd really has a talent for making a whole thing I just made into like a 7-minute spiel into like one sentence. So I'm gonna read that again for you guys. If you can make a judgment and at the same time be aware of judging, then you are no longer trapped by your own mind. Beautiful. All judgment is rooted in opinion and vice versa. Opinion, if y'all remember correctly, is the shadow frequency from the 17th gene key, which we just went over. So it's a biofeedback loop. Judgment rooted in opinion, opinion rooted in judgment. They fuel and feed each other. The more you think your opinions, the more you have to defend them. It's a nice potent reminder from the last key. Inversely then also, the more I realize I am not my opinions, they're just energies surfacing to the liberation, to the awareness of my consciousness in order to be liberated, the more I can lean back, do nothing. I don't need to defend anything because the truth needs no defense. My truth, the way I'm acting, needs no defense. This is truly the frequency of someone who's either embodied in a gift or acidic state. And I go over that in more depth within the 17th Gene Key videos. So ultimately, this 18th shadow of judgment is about needing to be right. And the person that needs to be right is operating from their ego, right? They can't sit still knowing that others think differently. They need a false sense of peace and resonance, and they need it to be their way or the highway. On the flip side, to elevate out of judgment, you have to be okay with the fact that you're not always right, number one. And number two, sometimes everyone's gonna have a different opinion. So I see a lot of people-pleasing energy also within this 18th shadow of judgment, needing everyone to be on the same page. The person who steps out of judgment realizes sometimes we're on different pages and that's okay. The person that's stepping out of this frequency, this shadow frequency, is aware that I have my truth and you have yours. My truth is no more truer than yours and vice versa. So it's a loosening of the identity, right? A letting go of pride. Oh, I love this line. Would I rather be right or happy? And this is italicized, so I don't know if these are Richard Rudd's words. I think he's quoting from somewhere because I feel like I've heard that before. Nonetheless, it's a pure question of gold. And actually here, I mean, I'll offer it as just something to contemplate. Would I rather be right or happy? I mean, yeah, I actually haven't sat and contemplated that, so I'm gonna be doing that as my homework too. I'll just note too that anytime I offer you guys contemplations or meditations, unless right now, as I've just voiced, I haven't done that, I have always done them. I only offer things that I have personally found helpful, and I offer them because I know they're helpful, because they've helped me. And speaking of judgment, just because they've helped me doesn't mean they have to help you, but I offer them because I think they might. I have an inkling, a little itch that they might. Okay, and the last little bit I'll leave you guys with is that he says the details of judgment are utterly irrelevant. The only thing that does matter is how seriously you take your own judgments. Meaning if your identity rests on your judgments, your need to be right, then every place you go, you will stir people up negatively. It's a very turbulent frequency, right? And I described this earlier. It's a visceral sensing of anxiety and like leaky energy coming off that person who's extremely judgmental. I would know this because I've been that person that's extremely judgmental, extremely self-critical. As you know, watching this, if you've watched any of my videos, I used to be a model, talk about judgment central. You know, I'm surrounded by people that are judging themselves. I'm surrounded by people that are comparing themselves. I'm judging myself. I'm comparing myself. I'm judging others. Oh, she's wearing that. She gained 5 pounds. Oh my God, I look disgusting. You know, just all of these kinds of thoughts always going through my head. Anywhere I went, I was a frenetic, anxious little mess. So once again, it matters how seriously you take your own judgments. And that means if you can wake up and realize, I don't need to take it so seriously, these thoughts coming into my head of self-deprecation and comparison. I can see them for what they are and choose not to entangle and stick with them. But if I do choose to entangle and stick, then you betcha, everywhere I go, people will be able to even subliminally or subconsciously sense this judgmental, anxious, leaky energy coming off of me. And obviously this alters the way not only I see the world, but also how people interact with me and feel about me. So much to say on this. This is only part 1 of 2 discussing the shadow frequency of judgment. So stay tuned for the next video where we finish talking about this and also go over the repressive and reactive natures of this shadow frequency. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.